Now, it's Lunchtime with Ira, live from the Las Vegas Hilton.
Here's to Las Vegas, it's one of a kind. Here's to the smiles all around. Neons are flashing about music and passion all over town.
Welcome to Lunchtime with Ira, live from the Las Vegas Hilton. We're broadcasting live from Shimmer Cabaret, home of Menopause the Musical. And every Monday we talk with the celebrities, entertainers, writers, and personalities who make this the most exciting city in the world. And in addition to our radio show, we're now televised in hotel rooms throughout Las Vegas, courtesy of the Watch It television network. Well, our guest this week, female impersonator Frank Marino, Review Journal columnist Norm Clark, creative director Jeff Kutash, and Steve Harwell from Smash Mouth. And my first guest is none other than Frank Marino. Lacage impersonator headliner. He's known as the Queen of the Strip. He became nationally known after he was served a $5 million lawsuit from Joan Rivers, which we'll get into, for his impression of her. And they are now friends, so that's been settled. And Frank appears at the Riviera Hotel, 7:30 p.m. Wednesdays through Mondays in the Mardi Gras Plaza at the Riviera. And welcome to Lunchtime with Ira, Frank.
Good morning. Good to be here.
Is it tough for entertainers to get up to do a afternoon radio and television show?
Yeah, actually, I don't think in the 20 years that I've been here, I've ever been up this early. Not that it's that early, but normally I never have to drive on the Strip, and I couldn't believe the traffic today.
Traffic is the one thing in Las Vegas that just keeps growing and growing and growing.
Yeah, see, now I need a heliport at my home if I'm going to do these things.
Is there a heliport on the roof of the hotel that you can go to?
Probably not. I probably have more room on my home.
So, well, there's a lot of stuff I want to talk to you about. First of all, and a lot of it's known already about your great impression of Joan Rivers, then the lawsuit, and then now you buried the hatchet. Not in each other, but you buried the hatchet.
Almost.
And so you're now friends. But what was it that caused the initial reaction to your impersonation or impression of Joan Rivers? And which would you call it, impersonation or impression? Or is there another word for it?
I do an impression, my impression of Joan Rivers, let's say. And originally I just started doing her when I first started doing female impersonation because I wanted to be live and I couldn't sing, so I wanted to do a comedian. Joan Rivers was the most famous of all the female comedians at the time, and probably still for stand-up. She and Phyllis Diller both. And I decided to do Joan Rivers. She was the permanent guest host on Carson back then, and with all the glamour gowns. It really just fit for what I was doing as far as female impersonation. That's how I started with Joan. And one day I actually was in her dressing room in Atlantic City. I had knocked on the door and she let me in. And while I went back to say, hey, I was a little kid at the time, Miss Rivers, pulling on her dress, I impersonate you, I met producers of a show called Lacage that were there also, putting a show in Atlantic City. And it just all fell together where I ended up doing an audition for them, and they took me to Las Vegas.
We have a poster of how you actually look as
well,
Joan
that's not
Rivers
as
right
Joan,
there.
but that's actually just me in drag.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, that is you in drag. Correct, yes.
Because what happened was
I'm
after...
seeing it at an angle, and actually you could be either way, yourself or Joan Rivers.
What happened was I was afraid that, years ago she was getting up there in age, that her career might tumble. So I just started doing my own femme fatale character, just Frank Marino in drag, because I was like, what if her career tanks? What am I going to do? Little did I know
How
that...
selfish of you, Frank.
I know, isn't that terrible?
Yes.
But I was worried, what if... she doesn't get another TV show. Or what? Who knew she was going to be so popular with the red carpet interviews for the Academy Awards and all that stuff? QVC, she has the #1 show for her jewelry. So, that woman is like a cockroach. The world's going to end. There's going to be nothing here except Joan Rivers.
She was actually on our show a few weeks back when she appeared at the Tropicana for one night.
She's a lot of fun, don't you think?
Yes, very, very much so. She has a great history in show business and all the different things that she's done.
Yeah.
So does she get a chance, when she gets a chance and she's in Las Vegas, does she come and see you and perform?
Yeah, well, like I said, she introduced me to the producers of the show. When I got to Las Vegas is when we had the problem, because don't forget now, I was 19 years old, so I wasn't a comedian. I was just a female impersonator doing an impression of Joan Rivers. It would be like a Diana Ross impersonator doing a Diana Ross song. So I was doing some of her material. Back then it was the Queen of England and Elizabeth Taylor. That was her subject matter. And she wasn't happy about me using her material. And I said, well, what am I supposed to do? I'm impersonating you. And it just was one thing after the other. She had lawyers come in, served me a $5 million lawsuit, which we settled, thank God. I was like $80 short. So we worked it all out, and we became friends again. She's since had her other shows come on the air, and she had me on as her guest, and now it's really good. So she comes to Vegas. Yes, she does come see the show if she has time, or I go see her show.
Now, you talked about when you were looking around for a character to impersonate, you picked, in this case, a comedian. because you couldn't sing. Now, is that still the case? You still cannot sing?
I still cannot sing. I don't even try to sing.
You don't even try to sing?
Yeah.
So does that limit the number of impressions that you can do?
I really don't like doing impressions. I'm the only impressionist that doesn't like doing impressions. I like being me. Now that I write my own material and do all my own stuff, I don't like to give the credit to, like, say, Joan. Like, I'll do a Joan Rivers monologue, but it's all my material, so I don't like to give her credit. So I'd rather be me. And the marquee says Frank Marino as Joan Rivers, so I sort of have to do it. But I don't enjoy doing it.
So what took you down this path of showbiz as opposed to being a backstage carpenter?
Like in school, you do that application, what you'd be good at.
Yes.
Well, the guidance counselor called me in and said, you'd be a great female impersonator. So I took off my high heels, I ran home, I told my parents. No.
Oh, that's how you figured it out. Okay.
No. I was originally going to be a doctor. The main goal of my life was I was going to be a doctor. And I was going to college, and I was working in a pharmacy. You know the large pharmacies in New York where I'm from, they have the makeup counter up front? I would spend more time at the makeup counter talking to the sales reps and learning how to use the makeup, which I was very interested in, than actually dealing with the pharmacist in the back and helping them count the, pills and the medication.
So you figured your destiny was there.
Well, Halloween, I dressed up using the makeup that they taught me how to use, and I won a lookalike contest. And from there, it just snowballed into one thing. I met an agent that said, you want to do this? And at first I said no. And he's like, it's $150 for an hour. All you got to do is go to, like, weddings and bar mitzvahs, and you could do these little spoofs, with other lookalikes. And we did that. And then it just snowballed into Las Vegas, and, got bigger than I ever expected.
And you have a particular niche here in that you've been consistently performing for
20 years.
And as a result, not only are you well known, but just the fact that you have that longevity, that you have survived and prospered in all that time.
I think being in Las Vegas, we've had to change so many times over 20 years. Like, I had to change, like, from being Joan Rivers to being Joan Rivers and being Frank Marino, changing the music. Don't forget, when we first opened 20 years ago, we had people like Anne Margaret, Marilyn Monroe, the Pointer Sisters in the show. Now we have people like Jennifer Lopez, Celine Dion, Britney Spears. Those people weren't even heard of when we first opened. So we're not a multi-million-dollar production, so we are able to change the show constantly. So you could come as a tourist, see the show, have a great time. Come back 6 months later, we'll have new characters in there. I'm going to have new gowns, new monologue. My act changes with current affairs. We've survived, 4 presidents, 2 wars, the turn of a century. So it's all because of the world changing. We were able to change, and it made it interesting for the audience and the people coming.
And give us a sense of the show. You obviously headline, and you do your material, but then you have, as you mentioned, you have other
the
acts
show's
as well.
a lot of fun. What happens is it opens with a big Vegas traditional feather number, with the feathers in the sequence. I come out as Joan Rivers, and I do my monologue, warm everybody up for about 15 minutes, let them know we're not promoting a lifestyle, we're just promoting a form of entertainment, much the way Milton Berle did on his TV show, what Flip Wilson did. Then I'll bring on all the famous women that have ever appeared on the Strip. We have everybody from Cher to Diana Ross to Madonna, Britney Spears, Tina Turner. So all the famous ladies come out. In between, I come out as Frank Marino, just in drag, in different beautiful Bob Mackie gowns. I change 17 times per show. So you're going to get like a Paris fashion show. You're going to get to see all your celebrities. And if there's a part of the show you don't like, it's going to be over and the next part's coming up. So there's always something to look forward to. And it's just a real high energy, a lot of fun.
So give us you said 17 different changes.
17.
That's a lot. So how does that work? Can you give us a sense of how that works behind the scenes? How do you get
behind the scenes? I grab a rope and people throw clothes on me because I have literally 2 minutes to change everything. And a lot of women get mad at me that I change so quickly because when they come outside and their husband meet me, they're like, how come you can't get ready that quick? So they're not too happy about that.
And I'm sure you must have had occasionally over those 20 years a night or two where you just weren't
have problems.
Ready. Yes.
Well, what happens, a lot of times a zipper gets stuck or I can't get out of the outfit. And then if I know it's going to be traumatic like that, I'll just wear the same dress, 2 times in a row. And the audience will be sort of like disappointed, like, oh. And I'll go, oh, don't worry, I have 2 of them, So you try to figure out lines over the 20 years that'll work for the fact of something went wrong, One time I've had a wig fall off. I used to do a number where I turned from Joan Rivers into myself and they forgot to put the other wig out there. So actually that makes the show more interesting for me. And then if I'm put on the spot and I have to think quick, it actually makes it more fun for the audience as well.
Now when you get... I'm sure you have a wide, diverse audience that comes in to see it over a period of 20 years. When you get the international visitor, how does that work? Because I'm sure visually it's compelling. Do they understand from a language point of view? How do you work that?
I'll tell you the truth. You're right. We get everything from prom kids to senior citizens, so we definitely get a large array of people coming in. And the international people seem to know the big stars of my show. They might not know Joan Rivers or understand the comedy, but they feel the energy in the room, let's say, and they have a great time as well. So the best story of that was people not understanding. We have a section up front if you're hard of hearing or if you're deaf, and
What?
they have these special things where they put them in your ears.
Right.
And this one person brought in an interpreter where they were signing the show to them as it was going on. Now, I'm sure they could feel the vibrations of the show for the musical numbers, with the bass and everything. But I was spending more time watching the audience because I wanted to see what I was saying, how the interpreter would interpret it, and produce it to the person who was hard of hearing. So every time I got to a risque word or something, I'd be saying that, and I'd look down and see how you sign that word, and it's basically the same way we do. The middle finger goes up,
So you didn't have to memorize any new language.
No, but I think the interpreter was dying that she had to interpret what I was saying, to tell you the truth.
I'm sure that was a little uncomfortable in that sense. So have you thought about doing some sort of second or third language track that people can listen to as you perform? Or is the audience primarily English speaking, so that it's not an issue?
Primarily 99.9% American speaking people. And don't forget, a lot of European people speak English nowadays. I just went throughout Europe and everybody spoke English.
Yeah,
So
that's amazing.
it's like the second language in every school nowadays, if you're in Europe.
Right. How do you... the show that you do now, because it is so uniquely Las Vegas, have you taken it on the road and tried it in different markets?
Oh yeah,
what is the reaction on
over
that?
the 20 years we've played like almost every city in the world, and a lot of times I'll go with the show. Sometimes I don't, but if I go with the show, and it's always a lot of fun to travel and see how new people perceive you. Don't forget, Vegas has been the best perception because people who come to Vegas come from all over. But then they pick and choose the show they want to go to. So if they picked your show, it's something they're going to have high interest in. So they're going to be real supportive of it. And I guess the same in other cities. But I like to have people from all over the country in one room because it's more diverse. You could talk about more things, where if you go to an isolated area, you might have to narrow your thinking to fit their standards.
Now, if you look at the wide, it's my contention that the entertainment scene in Las Vegas is, if anything, it's wider and in a sense broader than years ago. Some people are complaining, or used to complain, that the entertainment here is not as diverse as it used to be. I think, if anything, it's more diverse. You have hypnotists and ventriloquists and production
Definitely.
shows and the traditional shows.
And it goes through stages, I feel.
Sure.
There was a stage where every showroom was a magician. Then there was a stage, every showroom was a comedy house. Then there was a period where, now it's all cirque shows. So it goes through transitions, and I, thank God, weathered every one of them and stayed here the entire 20 years, where we've been lucky, I guess.
Now, a big issue too has been, at least in your own press materials, you talk about plastic surgery and that you've undergone the knife, so to speak. Is that because of the Joan Rivers aspect, or is it just because you feel that you want to change your
I
looks?
think I started plastic surgery when I was very young. I had a nose job, and when I found out that you could change something you didn't like quickly like that, it's like a quick fix. It's addicting. It's not for everybody, but I've had quite a few different procedures of plastic surgery, and I speak openly about it because it's what I did to look the way I wanted to look, and I don't think it's a big secret, where it was a big taboo years ago.
Yeah.
And I don't think I did it to look like Joan Rivers, but I think if you have that much surgery, you're going to look like Michael Jackson or Joan Rivers. I got the lesser of two evils.
And also your hair's upside down, so that's kind of weird.
Exactly.
So now, how does it work when you come out on stage and you see an audience? Are you finding, after having done this in Las Vegas for 20 years, are you starting to see familiar faces in that? A percentage of the audience are people that have seen the show, enjoyed the show, have come back now and brought friends or relatives?
Absolutely. Especially being at the Riviera, we're at what I call a mom and pop resort, meaning we don't have like the Harrah's name behind us or the MGM name behind us, where there's 10, 20 hotels promoting a product. So it's tougher to do that. So thank God for repeat business of people liking the show. I would say 25% of the people in my audience every night are repeat business. And it's for the reason I said earlier. You could come back time and time again. The show's always going to be different. And it's going to be a show where it's a lot of fun. You're definitely going to forget your troubles for an hour and a half. And you end up laughing. You leave one of these big multi-million-dollar production shows. They're beautiful shows, but it's a visual where mine's more of an experience where you're going to feel something on top of it.
Now, the costumes that you have, and you do all these changes. Do you leave the costumes there, or do you take them home at night and lock them up? Or
well, over 20 years, I've got thousands of costumes, so I keep hundreds of them at work in the dressing room, but I keep most of them. I have a warehouse where I store everything, and the things that haven't been donated to auctions or charities or museums over the last 20 years, I keep them. Because you never know when you're not going to be working. You might need to go in the closet again. And I save them because I don't know what we'll need them for in the future, but I have a lot of stuff.
Now, rumor has it you're donating one of your costumes to this show. Is that true?
To this show. If you'd like to wear one, you're more than welcome.
Well, I don't know. I would wear it, but I just heard you were going to donate one. So, okay. That was just a rumor.
Okay.
I think I started it now that I think about it. So, what's the best part of showbiz, to use that vernacular, or what's the best part of show business for you as a performer, and the best part of it being in Las Vegas?
I love Las Vegas. So if I wasn't an entertainer, I'd have to be the mayor, and I don't think Oscar Goodman's going to give that up right now.
Not just yet, no.
But
could you do an impression of Oscar?
Of Oscar Goodman?
Yes.
I'll have another. And he's such a great sport. I've put him in drag before. I mean, he's an entertainer himself. So. But I just love Vegas, and I love being somebody in Las Vegas, which makes it more special after 20 years. I mean, one day the curtain's going to go down, and it's going to be like it was a big dream for me, but it was the best dream you could have. And
at the same time, you're, I think, planning for that time down the road because you're involved in a lot of other businesses and enterprises
Well, I dabbled in acting last year. I did Miss Congeniality, too, with Sandra Bullock. That was a lot of fun. It was also a lot of work, so now I have a lot of respect for these actors that get up at 6 in the morning and they work till 11 at night. It's work. I like to do my hour and go home.
Sure.
After 20 years, I'm sort of spoiled on top of everything else.
So are you going to be working on an impression of Sandra Bullock then for your act?
No, I don't know if she really does anything that stands out that I'd want to impersonate, but
make money?
Did what?
She makes money.
Oh, she makes a lot of money.
There, so,
but you know what? After seeing the hours she works, I also now think she deserves these salaries you read about in the magazines because it's phenomenal what they have to do as far as time.
So where do you see yourself branching out once that day comes where you just don't want to do this anymore?
You know what? I don't know. I changed my mind so often that until the curtain goes down, I don't know where I'm going to go.
Well, thanks for being on Lunchtime with Ira, Frank.
It was great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Frank Marino headlining at an evening at La Cage, 7:30 p.m. Wednesdays through Mondays in the Mardi Gras Plaza at the Riviera. And coming up, Review Journal columnist Norm Clark, Jeff Kutash, and Steve Harwell. We'll be right back with Lunchtime with Ira.